Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And today we're talking about more board game rules mistakes. So as you know, this is a continuing series here where we're talking about a couple of rules in board games that we've missed that are pretty dang critical rules. Now the first game I want to talk about has actually appeared on this series before, and this is Nidavellir. Now this one in particular is the expansion Thingvelir, and this one introduces a new mercenary group that you can grab cards from. So if you're the first person to win a bid in this game, you're going to be able to have the option to pick one of these tavern cards, a special tavern. So there's 5 cards that are there, and you have first pick from them, and you're the only one who actually gets to pick from there, and you have to win. So winning is that much more important because these cards are very powerful. Now the cards that I want to talk about are here specifically, and they are the actual mercenaries themselves. Now normally the way that we were playing was you grab one of these characters, and they count as one or the other for the characters in the game. And that seems like it would make sense, right? They consider as either of them, so you can get a lot more flexibility in your choices. That's not the case. Not only do they do that, but you actually don't play them right away. You put them to the side of your board, and right before the round's about to end, that's when you assign them. And that is huge because in the first part of the game of Nidavellir, you're actually going to get majorities and an extra ability if you have the most of a specific banner type. So if you're waiting to the very end in that first half of the game, that's huge because you can all of a sudden be winning a majority and then get a special ability or prevent other people from getting them. And that's a huge deal. So I think that's really important, really cool. And if you don't know this, that's what this does. So just keep that in mind when you're playing and make sure that you're playing correctly because we definitely weren't. And now this game has changed drastically and we've actually now played the game the way it's meant to be played, and I love it even more. It's even better than before. This is a great thing to add to the game. So Thingvelir, wonderful expansion for Nidavellir, but make sure that you are playing that when you buy these mercenaries, they hang out on the side of your board, and then you play them at the end of the age. Now the next game I want to talk about is going to be Startups. Now this was recommended to me by Dan over at Chairman of the Board. Please go check out his channel. And he figured that this would be a game right up my alley. And he was not kidding. This is a game I really, really enjoy. It's a great little filler game. It takes about 10 minutes to play. Wonderful time. And the way the game works is on your turn, you're going to be drawing a card from the deck or from the face-up pile, and then discarding a card either into that face-up area or in front of you. If you have cards in front of you, that allows you to score for a specific majority. However, here's the kicker. You only score if you have the most cards in that majority, and then you get money from other players that have cards from that majority. Now that being said, if nobody else has anything of that color, you're not going to get anything, so don't want to waste your time doing things. Another thing is, whenever you draw from the center of the deck here, you have to put money on all the cards that are out in the middle because maybe you don't want those cards because if you take one, all of a sudden somebody else already has that majority, then you're going to have to pay them coins. It's a little bit weird to get your head around and explain, but the big thing here is that there's a great little mechanism that has to do with these tokens. These are called the anti-monopoly tokens. As you're playing cards in front of you, you're going to take these tokens so that they prevent you from taking those cards from the center and putting them in front of you. Now, why is this a big deal? For example, say that this flamingo player here has this token. If a flamingo showed up in the middle, he would not be able to take it, which gives everybody else a chance to grab those flamingos, and then they are able to overcome that person. Now, once again, that's only from the center. So this is an interesting kind of balancing mechanism here, and I think that's really cool. Now, the way that we were playing was that if you had this Monopoly token in front of you, not only were you not allowed to take the cards in the middle, but you just weren't allowed to play these cards in front of you either. You could save them in your hand because at the end of the game you play all the cards in front of you, but we were playing that you couldn't actually play them from your hand, and that is not the case. So you can continue playing cards if you're drawing them from the top of the deck, you just cannot take them if they're in the middle. And that is a huge change to the rules. Now the reason this is because you can still secretly have information in your hand. You can also commit cards during the game to ensure you're winning a specific majority, and that might be important if you're trying to make sure that you keep that tiebreaker token, which is also the anti-monopoly card. There's just a lot of little intricacies that play because of that rule. And now that we've changed it, we played it once wrong and then immediately found out what we were doing. Everything has clicked and the game has been a blast ever since. So if you really like small, thinky, and challenging challenging filler games, this is a great one that I recommend as well. This is Startups. Now, the next game that we're going to talk about is Rurik, the Stone and Blade expansion in particular. Rurik's one that's been getting a lot of play, and we've been using all of the new expansion content as well. Everything in the base game is good, no worries here, but in the expansion, we introduce a couple of cards here, and these are your starting resources. So these resources, they're called inheritance cards, and the way they work is you get whatever's depicted on them. Very straightforward, you're going to get 3, you pick 2. Now, here's the thing that we missed, and it's very critical. Some of these cards will give you buildings, or they'll give you units as extra things, so extra starting resources, which is really powerful. Now, that being said, when you get them, we were playing where you had to build that wherever this was designated. So in Rostov here, so you had to place it on the map for Rostov. That is not the case. If you get a unit or if you get a building that you can build somewhere, you can play it there for free, or you can pay $1, an extra $1, to put it anywhere on the board. And that is a big deal, once again, because that gives you so much flexibility, whether it be with your goals or the different other things that you're strategizing right from the get-go. There's a lot of flexibility by paying that extra coin cost. So I really like that little decision there, but one that we overlooked in our first couple of plays with this expansion in the rules. So that being said, that is the rule from Rurik, Stone and Blade, and that is when you get a unit or a building, you can pay $1 to put it anywhere instead of just where the card says. Now, number 4 game here is one that, once again, we've been getting a lot of plays in of, and we still have found some rules, and this is Ankh, Gods of Egypt. Wonderful area control game where you play as a giant god, and you're trying to become the monotheistic god for the region. Now, you're going to be doing this by earning devotion, crawling up a track, by using this really interesting action system, triggering events, and going to battle. Now, the events triggering and the actions are kind of what prompted this rule that we had to look up. Now, the big thing here is we found out that generally on your turn you take one of these actions and you do one below. We thought that you sometimes were not allowed to take actions, and particularly this bottom one. This bottom action is the Ankh Power Action. When you take it, you pay a number of followers, so your currency in the game, in order to upgrade your abilities. You can do this 6 times, and each time you do it, it costs more, and eventually you'll max out and you won't be able to get any more abilities. Now, we thought that once you were fully leveled up, or if you didn't have the money to pay for it, you were just out of luck. You could not use this action. That is not the case. If the Ankh symbol is down there, you can use it if you're just trying to move it down the track. So if you're trying to activate an event or something, that is huge. That is a big thing, because normally you could have saved that. Well, I shouldn't say normally. The way we were playing incorrectly, you could guarantee that that Ankh power was reserved, and you could make sure that somebody couldn't trigger that event. That is not the case. If you need to, you can activate the Ankh event just to use it for that fake action, not even a real thing. You don't even have to do it, just to push it forward and to try to trigger that event. So very critical, because that is a big thing with a strategy, is knowing when to trigger those events and being able to trigger them at appropriate times. So that's the Ankh ability. You can still use it even if you can't afford it, or if you've already fully maxed out, you just don't get any other effects, you just simply move it along. So that is Ankh. And the last game we're going to talk about is an awesome game. This is Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition, card game engine builder that takes a lot of the things that I love from Terraforming Mars and does it in a slightly different way. Great package altogether, and it has to do with the cards themselves. Now, one specific type of card. Now, in the base game for Terraforming Mars, whenever you play one of these green project cards, you play it, you do what it says, you track it on your board, and then you put it to the side and you just use it for the icons. So when we were playing, we figured, hey, that's what this does. It sounds a little funky because they describe what the production does, and we just figured, hey, that might be a weird thing just to kind of help you with what's going on here, and that's just kind of what we figured would be. However, once again, as you can imagine, this is not the case. There are some cards in this game that actually have green effects that do get better over time. For example, you might have a card that says, hey, you get $1 for each earth tag that you have, and it will have this little slash that says per. Whenever you see one of those symbols, they work retroactively. So if you play more of those earth tags later, you're going to get more money. So it really gives you a new strategy that you can go down and a new path to make your cards even better. So we figured that it was just like the base game where you play a card, you do what it says, you put it to the side, so it's all about timing. That is not the case here. These are cumulative and they continue to work. They are retroactive. Keep that in mind. So that is Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition. Particularly, some of the green cards have effects that are retroactive. And those are the 5 games that I made more rules mistakes in. Please let me know if you've made any of these mistakes yourself. If there are games that you've made mistakes in, I'd love to hear. Oh man, I gotta read those rule books really finely to find those key little details, and some are just glaring lookovers, or maybe I was taught them wrong by someone else. You'll bet that there will be a part 5 for this video, that is for sure. But thank you so much for watching. Side Game Strong.